How's it going, everybody? So we're back talking some more Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2, with Episode 5 dropping today. And Episode 5, we're finally past the midway point of the season, and this week we do have some pretty interesting developments for a multitude of storylines, particularly involving the dwarves, Celebrimbor and Annatar, and an interesting alliance potentially brewing in the future with Galadriel. Before I dive into all my thoughts about the episode, though, share your thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you think of the episode? If you haven't already, leave a like on the video and subscribe. Since the episode does kick off with King Durin, we'll start with his storyline. With the dwarves now receiving their 7 rings of power, it's only a matter of time before treacherous things started to occur in Khazad-dûm once King Durin put on the ring. Since the very beginning of Season 2, it has been very fascinating, the rings of power in play, and how each of them influence the individual, and the different effects it has playing on one's desires. Because at first it seemed fairly harmless. King Durin manages to find the correct spots to dig so sunlight finally can shine on them again, which is a beautiful sequence, might I add. Also, it's very much enhanced by Bear McCreary's score. There's one major thing about this show I'm gonna praise time and time again. It has to be Bear McCreary's score. The guy is just bringing epic pieces of music each and every week. Soon after that ominous shift, while it was inevitable, it still is a bummer seeing it play out in action. Seeing how clouded and corrupted King Durin is becoming by his desire for riches, ignoring his son's pleas, and ironically, the restrictions he himself put on the mines, just so they can dig deeper and deeper for riches. Seeing their demise playing out each and every week is very much upsetting. And it's not helped whatsoever by the fact that they continuously are teasing the Balrog, which we know inevitably is going to be their downfall. I have to wonder, it's probably going to be at some point later on in the season at this point. We're getting closer and closer to Khazad-dûm being destroyed. Also, the way that the story is woven throughout in Episode 5, between the dwarves, Celebrimbor, and Annatar, all of that was brilliantly done, especially in how it contributes to Celebrimbor's slow descent. You feel so bad for Celebrimbor because you're witnessing Annatar trying to work his magic on him, doing everything he can to play him, despite his constant resistance to bend to the idea of trying to create 9 rings for men. He is trying his hardest to get Celebrimbor to bend to his will, trying to play to his emotions, trying to act like he cares about the men suffering from Mordor's rise. And if they do create these 9 rings for men, they're only going to give them to the most noble men. It's not going to be a big deal whatsoever. And after all this, he just goes and tries to make the rings himself, messes around a bit, to the point where Celebrimbor agrees to help with some added ulterior motives. Lots of different accusations are being thrown around in this episode, particularly from Durin when he goes to Celebrimbor and plants those seeds of doubt, being concerned about what the ring potentially is doing to his father, asking if they were altered whatsoever. And also, how well do you even know Annatar at this point? I mean, he did kind of come to you in very odd circumstances. Speaking of Annatar, I thought it was hilarious how messy it was that he brings up to Redania for a moment that she looked a lot like Galadriel. Just goes to show you how much Galadriel and Sauron are still thinking about each other after all of this time. Like I said, though, I feel horrible for how Celebrimbor is caught in the middle of all of this mess with Sauron coming into his life. There's certain moments where you're seeing all of this joy on screen. He's celebrating the elves and dwarves actually being friendly to one another. He sends Gil-galad a letter about how swell things are going, only to pretty much be forced into making these rings for Annatar. Or he can confess to everything that he's doing and never forge again, with all the different threats Annatar is making towards him. Now, the Numenor plot thread, much like the Stranger plot thread, is not one of my favorites of Season 2 so far, and similar to their storyline, I think there's so much more potential in Episode 5, especially with all the different conflict brewing with the fracturing between Miriel and Pharazôn, and the fight for political power. I mean, even Elendil's daughter turns on them. Poor Elendil, he's tested so much throughout this episode, Pharazôn's son being a real thorn in everyone's side. Probably the worst character by far in the Rings of Power to this point. He's just an obnoxious character, breaking people's relics, telling Elendil he's not a captain anymore and nobody should call him one. I'm still very satisfied at the fact that he did punch Pharazôn's son in the face. Unfortunately, I just did not like the consequences of him doing that, because it got Falendil being stabbed in the back after a skirmish between the two of them. Speaking of Galadriel, though, it only is basically one scene at the very tail end of the episode, but sets up some exciting stuff for next week. It turns out Galadriel isn't really a prisoner at all. Dar is actually much more interested in being allies with Galadriel to take down Sauron. With all this impending war on the horizon, it is kind of one of those situations, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so this alliance moving forward to try and take down Sauron, even though we do know a lot of the future of this show just because of Lord of the Rings, I'm still hoping it's going to be exciting moving forward. So make sure you share your thoughts down below. What do you think of Episode 5 of Season 2 of The Rings of Power? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? Where do you think we're going with Episode 6 next week? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys, as always, checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like on the video, and also subscribe to the channel so you update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.